Today I'm going to cover how to fill a hollow print. There's a couple reasons why you'd want to print something hollow, including saving resin. Resin is expensive. So I put a hole in the top and in the bottom so that it can drain as needed. I keep a little bit of resin at my desk in this little bottle here. It's just a dropper bottle from something else. The resin I use, Soraya Tech Fast ABS in navy gray, needs to be shaken a lot because it settles, so I always give it a real good shake and squeeze out the dropper a bunch of times. So it's easiest if you do this with a flashlight, a UV flashlight. That way you have it right next to you, and I just kind of drop it right next to the hole so that it kind of drips in, and I've got it at an angle so that when it drips in it doesn't go straight in, and that way you can make like a little, I guess it's kind of like a little dip there where the resin's hanging onto the inside of it. And I put it under the UV flashlight for, I don't know, 30 seconds or so. That seems to make it cure enough that it's not gonna be dripping out or going everywhere or be sticky on my hands. When you do the first one, it leaves that little dip there, so to get it flush with the rest of it, I'll just put a little extra in there, and this time I don't have to be so fast because it's not going to drip into it. And put the UV flashlight on it again, probably another 30 seconds. Now I'm only closing up one side of this because the other side we have to leave open so that we can put salt into it. And when you're working with UV like this, it's definitely a good thing to not be looking at the light, so I tend to turn away and just not look at it. I have it in a little pharmacy container that's blacked out from the inside. Alright, so I'm going to try to put this here. I'm using just regular, cheapy, you know, like $1.50 for a thing of salt. And this here is just an advertisement from, I think it's Sticker Mule. The point is that it's thick and it's like cardstock, and it'll hold up to holding the salt and manipulating it. So I pour a little salt in here, line it up with the hole, and then take my trusty tweezers, love my trusty tweezers, and I'm just gonna push it into the hole. Yep, that's about as exciting as it gets. This will take forever, like forever. This blank that I'm working with right here is for a 50mm chunk, so it takes me a little bit longer than some. You just gotta take it slow, and don't let your hand cramp, as it tends to do. Don't pour too quickly or it'll all like pile up on itself and not go down the hole. And you will make a mess. Salt will get everywhere. It's all over my desk, all over my floor. I roll my wheels on my chair over it and it goes crunch. So filling this 50mm blank took me probably, I don't know, maybe an hour. And it takes it pretty fast. Sometimes you can kind of knock the card back and forth like that and it'll come down. I've also tapped the end of it to help it come down in one long stream instead of scooping it like this, but I found that scooping it I have more control over it and I spill less of it. And sometimes it'll pile up on each other and just stop. So if you just give it a couple taps, it'll fall back down again and you can pick it up again. Some might ask, why don't you make a bigger hole so this goes faster? And to that I say, it is hard enough to fill in the hole with resin and cure it before it ends up getting in there in its wet form. Here's another angle, just pushing salt down into a hole. If the wet resin gets in there, the salt should dry it out mostly, but the problem is that uncured resin sealed in something has a tendency to explode. I mean, not explode like a bomb, but like it'll crack from the inside if there's uncured resin in it. That's why you have to clean it so carefully when you're working with hollow prints. And salt will go everywhere, everywhere. Yep, everywhere. Often I'll put something underneath, like my mirror, to catch some of the salt so I can just dump it back off the mirror, back onto the card. And as you start to get to the end, you'll notice more and more that the hole gets clogged up easier. When you pick it up and shake it, you can feel how much is in there, so as it starts to not move around as much, it'll just keep filling up on you. Like that. And all I do is just dump the top off and give it a shake, maybe tap it a few times. Trying not to get as much of it on the table as possible. If anybody's worked with any powder of any kind, if you just take a powder and pour it into a vessel, it'll be kind of fluffed up, and if you just tap it on the table, the grains will fall together in a way that compacts it down. So between filling it, I'll just tap it to try to tap down what's in it already to make more space for more. Now, I try to leave as little air in this as possible, not only because it's better for putting it in the pressure pot to not have air in it. It doesn't have as much pressure on it if there's no air in it. But also just because if the salt moves around inside of it too much, it'll wear down the inside. So I want the salt to be pretty tightly compacted in there. So I always just tap it a little bit. I'll put it on the tip and tap it because the hole is closer to the tip. If I put it on its tip side and tap it down, it'll make more space up there for me to work with. Shaking and tapping and adding more, and then shaking and tapping and adding more again. I'll do this pretty much right up until like it's only a little bit that I put in before I need to stop and tap it and shake it again. At the end I'll put my finger over the hole and just shake it a lot and listen, and if I still feel and hear things moving around inside, I'll put some more in. You could really probably use any piece of paper that you want for this, but I prefer the thicker cardstock just because it holds its shape a lot easier. It's just easier to hold on to and not have it all flopping around trying to keep all the salt on it. That way also I can put more salt on it so I don't have to fill up the salt more. I'm getting near the end now, just tapping it down and adding more. You can see now that it fills up really fast every time. It means I really don't have a lot of room left. And I'm shaking it near my ear, listening to it, trying to feel if anything's moving around in there. Seems pretty good. Alright, so get rid of some of the salt. We're going to do this pretty much the same way we did the other side. This side isn't going to droop in nearly as fast because it's full. So I'll just drip a little bit on top here again. And then hit it with the flashlight. And again, about 30 seconds with the flashlight. Makes it hard enough that it's not going to be sticky and you can sand it down pretty easily. And that about covers it. Nice, solid, full, hollow, filled. Well, if you guys appreciated seeing this, maybe drop a like or subscribe, and I'll be putting out more tutorials as I'm able to.